What's going on, guys? This is Greg, and today I'm going to talk to you about why I think a revolver is the best pistol for SHTF or WROL without rule of law. So stick with me. All right, guys. So the reason why I think a revolver is better than a semi-auto for SHTF purposes or WROL, especially if we're talking like a prolonged SHTF or a prolonged WROL, is for a variety of reasons. First, I'll show you my pistol. This is a Smith & Wesson Model 629. I got a leather holster for it. I did a review on this holster and the pistol, so you can check that out. So basically, it's a Smith & Wesson Model 629 Performance Center 44 Magnum 6-shot revolver. All right. So that's my choice. That's my pistol of choice for SHTF and even for, home defense, So we'll start with the first point that I have, which is reliability. When you're in an SHTF situation or WROL, you're going to want something that's reliable. Not only in a combat situation, but also in a long-term survival perspective. You have to think long-term because you're going to want something that's going to be able to handle being dropped or put through the mud or something like that, because if it's a true SHTF situation that we're talking about, you're going to want something that's not going to be very finicky about cleaning, and you want something that's all metal. You don't want anything plastic because if you drop it, it could crack. So with this pistol, it's all metal. I got a metal cylinder. It's solid steel. This is stainless steel. If I had to, I could hammer a nail in with this thing. This is solid steel. I know it's not gonna break on me. It's very well built. So that's why I chose this as my main SHTF pistol. You want something that's going to be reliable. Reliability is key, because even in if we're talking about like combat or war, they can get away with using semi-autos, because they always have resupply. Wars don't go on for a long period of time without resupply. The troops are always resupplied in a war. So even if, let's say, their rifle breaks down, it gets, something happens to it while they're in the field, they can always go back to base and get a new rifle, or, have it replaced. But, if you're, let's say, bugging out, and you're in a I'm never coming home inch type situation, you don't have unlimited resupply like troops have during war. So if your weapons break down on you and you're somewhere in the wilderness, or you're, God knows where, it's not like you're just going to be able to, get a new weapon, from your sergeant, or, wherever. You're going to be away from home. Who knows how long you're going to be. If it's like a bug out or, bug out situation, you're going to be in a totally foreign area. So you're going to want something that's not going to break down. You want something that's reliable. And the mechanism, that the way the revolver works, is that, you're basically guaranteed nothing's ever going to really happen when you're trying to shoot, because you have a turning cylinder. So every time you pull the trigger, the cylinder turns. So you don't have to worry about getting a jam or having problems with the gas system like a semi-auto. It's literally a mechanical, manually operated system. And that's what you want generally in SHTF weapons. You want the most simple and manually operated weapons that you can have. I know there's like this craze right now where everybody wants to have, tactical rifles. And, don't get me wrong, I like tactical rifles. They're really nice. I'm not saying that, but, it's not realistic. You're not going to be running around in an SHTF situation and playing a commando or something, or pretending that you're a Navy SEAL. That's just not going to happen. I mean, you may get into shootouts with people, but let's say even like in a true, like apocalyptic type situation, like The Walking Dead or something, you're still, even if you have weapons, let's say you're armed, let's say you have a chest rig with 10 mags and you got your AR, you're still not going to want to get into shootouts with people because you may get overwhelmed, especially if you're by yourself or you're just with your family. If you're with your wife and kids, and you're the only one that's armed, which is what most families are probably like, let's say you're the man of the house and you're the one that's armed and you have your AR and you got your 10 mags and you got your chest rig, your plates, all that stuff. Even, if you're in like a true SHTF apocalyptic, type Teotihuacan situation, you're not going to want to get into gunfights with people because, number one, you're going to waste your ammunition. And you don't know if you're going to get new ammunition or where it's going to come from. You don't have unlimited resupply like in the military. Number two, you don't know who you're going up against. Just because you think there's one guy there could be a whole group, and then you're going to get overwhelmed. So you want to keep a low profile. You're not going to want to be like, just shooting at everybody that looks at you the wrong way or something like that. You're going to want to conserve your ammo as much as possible, and you're going to want to avoid getting into gunfights because, especially if you're in a small group or if you're just by yourself with your wife and kids, you're not going to really be want to getting into gunfights, because it's just too much risk. So, from that perspective, a revolver, in my opinion, is fine because it's a manually operated. There's no gas system. It's basically guaranteed to work unless you bend the cylinder somehow, if which is very hard because it's a very thick, metal here. See, like this is about 1/4 inch of steel here, or maybe even more actually. It's about 1/4 inch of steel here, You're not going to be able to bend that. Even if I had this open and I dropped it on a rock or it got run over by a truck, chances are the cylinder is still going to turn every time I cock the hammer. The cylinder, you see the cylinder's still going to turn. Everything inside is protected by steel. Everything inside, the firing pin, the hammer, everything is protected, and it's a solid metal design. So this is, in my opinion, this is superior to a Glock or any kind of semi-auto, because a lot of those Glocks and stuff, they're made of plastic. I don't want plastic. If we're talking about SHTF, where I'm not going to have unlimited resupply and I'm going to actually have to use my weapon in the field. We're not just talking about like a shootout with like a gangbanger. We're talking about prolonged situation where you're going to be out of your house or in your house, and you're not going to have, the grid is going to be down. There's going to be chaos for, at least a few weeks. You don't want plastic because if that thing breaks on you, that's it. You're done. Especially if you're away from home or you're in a bug out situation. What are you going to do? How are you going to get yourself a new weapon? With this thing is bomb-proof. This thing is literally bomb-proof. This could probably take a grenade blast or an explosion or be run over by a truck, and it's still going to work, versus a Glock or something like that. If it falls out of your pocket or falls out of your holster and you'll drop it 2 stories, it may crack. They're made of plastic. So, you want something that's reliable. You know for sure it's going to fire every time you pull the trigger. And that's why I like a revolver, especially, a nice high quality revolver. So that covers reliability, and it also covers durability. It's a very durable weapon. It's stainless steel. It's going to take a beating, and that's important, especially in SHTF, because you don't know when your next resupply is. You don't know when the grid is coming back up. If your weapon fails on you, unless you have like 5 pistols in your backpack or, somewhere that you're going to get them from, you're going to be in trouble. So especially if we're talking about a bug out situation where you're on foot and you're away from your home or you're away from your location, you want something that's basically going to be bomb proof. Another thing that's also overlooked in a SHTF pistol is the ability to clean it very easily. Revolvers are very easy to clean. I don't have to break anything down. I don't have to take the slide off. I don't have to pull any pins out. I don't have to really do anything. All I do is just open it up just like I'm going to shoot it. You know, I can clean the cylinders if I want to. I don't have to though. But most importantly, I have access to the barrel right here. As soon as I open this cylinder, I have access to the barrel, and all I got to do is just run a piece of, you know, if you don't have a patch, like a gun cleaning patch, or if you don't have a rod, you can literally just take a piece of cotton and a stick and some gasoline. You know, if you don't have solvent with you, you can scavenge gasoline, because gasoline is a cleaner. You can take some cotton, you can cut a piece of cotton, dip it in some gasoline, and then just take a stick and you can push it through with a stick, and I can literally clean this weapon in 5 minutes or less, and it's good to go. And if something were to happen, let's say there's an obstruction in here, let's say I had like a misfire or a hang fire and the bullet got stuck in the barrel, you know, or let's say I have some debris, in here, something got in here, I can easily just push it out. You know, it'll literally take me like a minute to get it out of the barrel, which is important because you never know. You know, you could be in a situation where, you know, you don't. If let's say something happens, let's say you have like a hang fire or a misfire, and the bullet gets stuck in the barrel. That could happen, especially if you have older ammunition or if something's wrong with the ammo. You know, that happened to a couple of friends of mine that they were shooting military surplus ammo, and you know, the bullet got stuck in the barrel. If you're in an SHTF situation, you know, you're going to want to clear the obstruction very quickly, especially if you're in a firefight. You want to be able to clear that obstruction quickly so you can get back into the fight. And the revolver lets you do that, you know. Another thing too is let's say you do have like a misfire, you can easily just open the cylinder, pop the bad one out, you know, or I mean, you don't even have to do that, you know, because what's going to happen is if let's say you pull the trigger, you know, you pull the trigger and boom, you know, it has a hang fire or misfire. I don't have to worry about ejecting it or clearing. I don't have to worry about racking the slide back and clearing it out or anything like that. I just pull the trigger again because the cylinder is going to rotate and the hammer is going to fall on the next cartridge, you know, so that'll increase my ability to handle, you know, a misfire or a jam. You know, if something misfires, if you have a pistol and you have a misfire, you're going to have to clear that. You're going to have to rack the slide and get the cartridge out. And that's not always easy, especially in a stressful situation if there's bullets flying over your head. You know, so with this one, I literally don't even have to worry about it. If I have a misfire, I can just pull the trigger again and the hammer's going to fall on the next round. So I like that too. Another thing about revolvers is that they're very compact and they're lightweight. You know, you can buy very compact revolvers. You know, this one, I think it's like maybe 7 inches long. It fits in my hand. And this is a 44 Magnum too. And it only weighs 2.5 pounds. So for the amount of firepower I have with this, I have more firepower than a Glock or, you know, a lot of other pistols do. And they weigh around the same as this. Plus this is all steel. Everything is protected by steel. The trigger, the sear, the firing pin, everything is protected by steel. This is a bomb-proof design. You know, I could drop this off of a 3rd-story building. I could run it over with a car. You know, this could be subjected to a explosion or heat or fire, and I know for a fact it's probably not going to really affect it that much. So you know, the revolvers are generally very compact and they're very light. And the way that they're shaped too, it lends themselves to just carrying very comfortably on your side. They have a nice shape. They don't take up a lot of room. Another thing with revolvers is you can handle high power loads. You know, high power calibers like 44 Magnum, 357, 45 Long Colt, 460 Smith & Wesson, 500 Smith & Wesson. I also have a 500 Smith & Wesson, which I'm going to do a review on. That's also a good choice as well. It's maybe a little heavy for most people's taste, but you know, I could easily carry that, no problem. But you know, So the revolvers are going to let you shoot more powerful rounds, more powerful calibers, you know. And that's important in SHTF because, number one, you may be in a situation where you have to get some penetration. You know, you may need to penetrate through cover. Let's say you're in a gunfight, you know. Let's say you're in a gunfight and the guy's shooting at you and he's hiding behind something. You may want to have the ability to penetrate through cover, let's say through a wall or through cars, stuff like that. You're going to want the ability to penetrate. You know, because again, you don't know how long the gunfight's going to last. You know, you're not going to just be able to call 911. There's not going to be bystanders nearby that are going to be able to call 911 and the cops are going to come and rescue you. You're going to be on your own. There's not going to be any help, and you want to have some power. So this way, if let's say you get pinned down, you know, let's say there's like 2 or 3 guys and they have rifles and they're shooting at you behind cars. With a 44 Magnum, I can comfortably, depending on the type of load, I can comfortably penetrate through car doors easily. You know, very easily I could punch through a car door, no problem. Same thing with like sheetrock walls, you know, even wooden objects, you know. So with a 9mm or 45, you may not be able to do that. You know, you probably won't. So that's something to keep in mind, you know. So penetration and power, and then power leads me to the next point, which is able to hunt. The 44 Magnum or 357, you know, 45 Long Colt, 460 Smith & Wesson, you know, whatever, 454 Casull, 500, any of those rounds, you're going to be able to hunt with them. And that's important because when you're in SHTF, you're going to need to eat, you know, and the grocery stores are going to run out of food after a few days. And if you're, let's say, bugging out or you're away from home, you're trying to get home, you know, you may have an opportunity. Let's say you're in a get home situation. You're hiking home from a city, and it's going to take you a few days. You know, let's say you come across a deer or some kind of animal. You know, you're going to want to have the ability to hunt, and so you know, I don't have to carry a separate weapon. I can hunt with this easily. With a 44 or even a 357, you can hunt. You can take down a deer with a 357. And because it has more power, it has more, you know, it has more muzzle energy, it has more velocity. So you're gonna have a greater ability to take animals down at a longer range, versus like a 9mm. The energy falls off pretty quickly. You know, especially like 50 to 100 yards. You know, with a 44 Magnum, this thing can reach out and touch something. You know, if I have to shoot longer distances, like 50 yards, 100 yards. You know, I can do that. With a 9mm, not so much. It may not be as accurate, you know. It probably won't be accurate, but, you know, with the 44 or something like that, I'm going to have the ability to reach out and touch someone, which may be important in a SHTF situation. You may want to be able to do that because, you know, you don't know how the gunfight is going to turn out. So ability to hunt is another important thing, and another thing is you don't need any mags. You know, any type of SHTF weapon, you know, like you don't want to have something with magazines, you know, unless like I said, if you're near your home, if you're near your house, that's different because you can store extra magazines at your house or your retreat or your homestead or your bug out location. But if you're on foot and you're bugging out and you don't know when you're going to come back home, or you don't know when you're going to get home, let's say it's a get home situation and I'm hiking from the city, you don't want something with magazines, because the problem with magazines is, number one, what happens if you lose it? You know, let's say you lose the magazine, or let's say the magazine gets dented, or the spring malfunctions, and let's say you only have 2 mags with you. You know, if something happens where, you know, you have to, you know, load your weapon, the magazines are the weak point there, because you can't shoot your weapon without the magazine, you know, unless you load a cartridge in the chamber one at a time. But with the revolver, I don't have a magazine to worry about. I can pop the cylinder and load them in individually. I can also get a speed loader, and I could drop a speed loader in there and twist it, and, you know, I have speed loaders. So for SHTF weapons, you generally, especially if you're going to be away from home, you generally don't want something that's relying on magazines. So rifles like a bolt action or a pump action shotgun are the best because you don't have to rely on a magazine. As long as you have ammo, you can shoot the weapon. Same thing with a revolver, you know. As long as I have ammo for this, I can shoot it. But if I have a Glock or something like that, if I don't have a magazine on me, or if the magazine breaks, something happens, I'm not going to be able to shoot the weapon. It's going to be useless for me. So that's why another reason I like a revolver for SHTF. So to recap everything, the reason why I like a powerful revolver, something like a 357 or 44 Magnum or even higher, is that they're reliable, they're durable, they're bomb-proof, you know, they're guaranteed to fire, they're easy to clean, they're easy to clear malfunctions and get obstructions out, they're compact and light, they're powerful. You know, power is important, especially if you're away from home and you're on foot. If you're bugging out, you're going to want some power because you don't know how long of a distance you're going to engage a threat. You know, if you get into a shootout with somebody and they're shooting at you 100 yards away or 50 yards away, you know, you're going to want the ability to have some retained energy at those ranges and some accuracy. You know, so that's where a 44 Magnum or greater is going to have an advantage versus like a 9mm, which are generally very slow and low energy weapons. And the ability to hunt is going to be important, which is where like a 357, 44 or greater, that's going to be another thing that's good, you know, because if you need to hunt and procure food, you know, that's where they excel. In terms of being much better than a Glock or 9mm, and no mags required. You know, so revolvers, you don't need a magazine. You know, you don't need a magazine. So I don't have to worry about, you know, keeping magazines or holding any magazines on me. As long as I have ammo, I can load it up and shoot. I don't have to worry about keeping magazines if I get into a shootout with somebody. If I drop my magazine and forget it, I don't have to worry about, you know, collecting it later. You know, as long as I have ammo, I can shoot it. And then one final thing is I forgot to mention under the power part is penetration. You know, in a SHTF situation, you're going to want penetration for a variety of reasons. For being able to penetrate cover. If you get into a shootout with someone, you're going to want to be able to penetrate cover because the police may not be able to get there to rescue you, you know, especially if we're talking about long-term bug-out situation. You're not going to be able to just get on your cell phone and call and say 911, you know, I'm getting into a shootout, I need help here. You know, you're going to be on your own, you know, so you're going to want the ability to penetrate cover. If you get ambushed by a superior force, the superior force may be 3 guys with, you know, rifles, even just 3 guys with pistols. They're going to have superior firepower. So in that situation, you're going to want something with penetration so you can punch through the cover that they're hiding behind. And then also, you may want penetration to deal with bears or other types of predators that are out there. You know, when society collapses, if you're bugging out, you're in the wilderness, you know, civilization is basically destroyed. You know, a lot of the four-legged predators that were previously hunted and persecuted and extinct, the populations may rejuvenate themselves, and you're going to have to deal with predators. You may have to deal with bears, black bears. You know, in my part of the country, there's black bears. You know, black bears are big. I mean, generally they're afraid of people, but sometimes they're not. You know, like a 500-pound bear, that's a serious threat. You know, and a 9mm is just going to piss it off more if it's coming at you and it's charging you. A 9mm is not going to do anything. It's just going to, you know, you're not going to hit vital areas. It's not going to be able to punch through bone and muscle. So, you know, you want something with penetration. If you're on the West Coast, you're going to have to deal with grizzly bears. You're going to have to deal with mountain lions, also black bears. You know, so that's something to consider. You know, even a moose. If you're in the northern tier, a moose in the mating season, you know, that's a big danger too. So you should keep that in mind. And another thing to keep in mind too is that 9mm and 45s and those types of calibers, they were designed with, especially 9mm, they're designed for law enforcement use, which is different than SHTF, because law enforcement, they're worried about, typically law enforcement operates close to civilization, you know, and they don't want over penetration, so something like a 9mm or a 40 Smith & Wesson or a 45 ACP, you know, calibers like that, you know, the classic pistol calibers, they have low energy, and they have low energy. The bullets have low sectional density. So sectional density is basically just how long the bullet is. If you look at like a 9mm, if you pull the bullet out of the case, the bullet is very short and fat. It's kind of like a shotgun slug. And any type of bullet that is short and fat is not going to penetrate well. You know, generally, your sectional density, if you want penetration, you want the bullet to be longer. You want the bullet to be very long, and you want the diameter to be as narrow as possible. So the longer the bullet is and the narrower the diameter, the better penetration it's going to have. And 9mm have very poor penetration capabilities. You know, so that's why they're chosen by law enforcement, because they don't want, you know, if they have to stop a bad guy and they're in an urban area, they don't want a bullet that's going to punch through the guy and go another 200 yards and hit 5 other people before it stops, you know. But if you're in a SHTF situation or you're bugging out, you don't have to worry about that. You're not law enforcement, you know. You're just trying to survive. So just keep that in mind. Just because a certain type of pistol works for the military or works for law enforcement doesn't mean it's going to work for you during SHTF, because you got to remember, the military, they have unlimited resupply in most situations. Even during World War II, they had unlimited resupply. You know, so if you're a troop on the front line, you're always going to get, if your weapon breaks down, unless you're in the field, you know, you're never that far away from resupply. So even if you go out on an operation, you know, let's say you go out on an operation and you're out in the field for 24 hours or 48 hours or even a week or 2 weeks, if you're like a long-range surveillance or reconnaissance or special ops, you know, let's say you're out, you know, a week or two, or if you're a sniper, you're always going to be able to come back to base at some point. So if something happens to your weapon, you're always going to be able to come back and get a new one, or you can call in a airdrop for supplies, and there's unlimited ammo. When you're in a bug out situation, you don't have that opportunity. You don't have unlimited ammo. You don't have unlimited resupply. You may not have a base camp that you can come back to if you have to evacuate your home for whatever reason, or you know, you don't have, let's say most people don't have bug out locations. Most people don't have cabins that they can retreat to. So if these people have to evacuate their home for whatever reason, you know, they don't know when they're going to be back. They're not going to have unlimited resupply. You know, their resupply is going to be whatever they can trade or barter or scavenge or buy from other people. You know, so they're not going to have that ability like in the military. So that's why it's important to pick something that's reliable and durable, and also common. You know, like a 44 Magnum is very common. You can get a 44 Magnum ammunition anywhere. Same thing with like a 357. Obviously 9mm is the most common, you know, most common weapon. So, you know, you can get that much better. So that's it, guys. That's just my reasons why I chose my 44 Magnum Revolver Smith & Wesson as my SHTF pistol. I'd like to hear your comments. Tell me what you think. Be respectful. You know, if you're gonna be nasty, I'm gonna block you and delete your comments. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Rambo or, you know, I don't give a crap. You know, if you don't respect me, that's it. I'm gonna delete your comment. I'm gonna block you. You know, if you think that your Glock is better than my revolver, then explain to me the reasons why. Maybe there's something I don't know. But if you're nasty, I'm not gonna take the time to deal with you, you know. So you know, just tell me what you think. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel for more videos related to SHTF and all kinds of stuff related to prepping, you know. And I'm gonna make more videos on this topic. I'm gonna make the next video is going to be about long guns. I'm going to talk about what type of long guns I think are the best for SHTF. So look out for that one. I'm gonna be doing that one soon. All right, guys. Thanks for watching.